Today we're going to be reading Infinity and Me by Kate Hosford. Throughout the story, our main character, Uma, asks friends and family what they imagine when they think about infinity. So, I encourage you to find a blank piece of paper and something to write with, and either write or draw what you imagine when you think about infinity. Pause this video if you need more time, and when you're ready, we'll start reading. Infinity and Me, written by Kate Hosford and illustrated by Gabby Swiatowska. The night I got my new red shoes, I couldn't wait to wear them to school. I was too excited to sleep, so I went outside and sat on the lawn. When I looked up, I shivered. The sky seemed so huge and cold. How many stars were in the sky? 1,000,000? 1,000,000,000? Maybe the number was as big as infinity. I started to feel very, very small. How could I even think about something as big as infinity? At school the next day, I asked my friend Charlie how he imagines infinity. "That's easy, Uma," he said. "It's a giant number that keeps growing bigger and bigger forever." I thought about trying to write that number down. Even if I lived forever, I would never finish. I went to get ice cream after school with my best friend Samantha. "Sam," I asked her, "when you think about infinity, what do you see?" "I see the infinity symbol," she said. "It looks kind of like an 8 that fell over and took a nap. If it were a racetrack, I could drive around it forever." Samantha made me feel a little better. Writing that symbol wouldn't take long at all. I traced a napping 8 in the dirt with my shoe. Before school the next day, I asked Grandma how she imagines infinity. She smiled at me and said, "I like to think about a family. First, you have the great-grandparents, then the grandparents, parents, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. It could go on forever." I couldn't really imagine that many people in one family. But I did realize something. It was hard to talk about infinity without talking about forever. I also realized something else. Not one person had noticed my new red shoes. Not even Grandma, who usually notices everything. I looked down to make sure they were still shiny. Then I started to wonder, what would I like to do forever? At first, I thought that I might like to have recess forever. But if there's no school before recess and no school after recess, is it really recess anymore? Maybe I'd like to be 8 forever. But I don't know if Samantha would still want to be my best friend when she was 85 and I was still 8. Maybe I could lick an ice cream cone forever. But what if my tongue started to hurt? Actually, my head was starting to hurt from all these thoughts. When I went to the lunchroom, I asked our cook, Mr. Mancini, how he imagines infinity. He held up a noodle. "How many times do you think that you could cut this in half?" he asked. I cut it in half 6 times. But then it got too small, and I was afraid I might cut my finger instead of the noodle. "In your mind," Mr. Mancini said, "could you cut that tiny piece of noodle in half forever?" I asked Miss Reed, our music teacher, about infinity, and wished I hadn't. "Picture music that goes in a circle," she said. "The notes would lead us around and around. The music would be endless." I was starting to think that my questions about infinity might be endless. It was time for me and my red shoes to go home. For dinner, Grandma made my favorite meal, butter chicken and rice. As she mixed the spices, she looked at me and said, "Uma, I meant to tell you this morning. Those are the most beautiful shoes I have ever seen." I didn't hear the rest of what Grandma said. I was too busy smiling. Right then, I knew. My love for her was as big as infinity. That night, I asked her if she would like to look at the stars with me. Snuggled up next to Grandma, the sky didn't seem so huge and cold anymore. Now it was more like a sparkly blanket, covering us both. I encourage you to take some time now to discuss the following questions out loud with somebody else. Think back to what you wrote or drew about when you imagined infinity. Was it similar to anything that you heard in the book? What was your favorite example of infinity from the book? Did you have one that you didn't like as much? You heard many different examples of infinity from Uma's friends and family. What does it mean for something to be infinite? For example, how many grains of sand are there in the world? Could you count all of them? Is it an infinite number? Why or why not? What about the number of people in the world? Is infinity a real number, like 1, 2, or 45? Finally, Uma thinks about what she might like to do forever. She wonders if she could eat ice cream forever. Have you ever thought about eating your favorite food for every meal? Would it still be as special if you ate it forever?